Welcome to Intuitive Seek. My name is Mary Train, and as an intuitive guide, energy healer, and meditation teacher, I aim to bring you a grounded approach to all things energy and intuition. Everything I share is with the hope to help you remember how your unique power of intuition is your own greatest teacher. Hello and welcome. Welcome to your intuitive week, your energy update for the week of September 15th, 2025. We are halfway through this month, and yes, quite a month it has been already. I hope you've been taking care of yourself and your energy and staying grounded as possible because, yes, right now, we are moving through, the whole year, but definitely this month, right now, so much change, very intense energies, chaotic, we could even describe it as. And in that chaotic energy, it was really reminding me about nature. And there has been this kind of myth around nature that nature grows to be in balance, that it's always moving back towards balance, trying to get back to something. And that has been through a lot of research, that has been proven not true, that there isn't this perfect place for nature to get back to resume, that nature grows in chaos, that there is no predictability in where the balance is in nature, that nature is always reacting and responding to the change and the changes. And that reminded me of this week, that sometimes during these times of change and intensity, we can be trying to get back somewhere, trying to get back to when, right? Like when the world was, when the world had. But that tends to be a myth too, because we look back with a different lens. We look back with what we know now. And whatever we're looking towards, trying to get back to, is usually not real or not in the way that we're perceiving it. And as you know, since we're not separate from nature, we also thrive and respond and react and grow through change, through seeming chaos. And when I looked up, is the balance of nature a myth? That nature is always trying to restore balance, restore harmony. This has been kind of debunked or found to be not true many years ago. I found a research article from 1991. I found a research article from 2014. But then while I was looking it up, I did see quite a few different search results pop up from more like 2019 to now. And there were a lot of kind of blog posts and different things speaking to the balance of nature and harmonizing yourself to nature and striving to reach the balance of what nature is teaching us, that it's always reaching for this state of harmony. And that is not true, which is interesting, right? Because it is a really great way to market something, but it can be harmful. Because to think that we are always trying to get back to balance of some kind of perfect harmony, that can feel like we are never enough because we are not reaching that state of perfect harmony. And you can even kind of fit this into the spiritual idea of enlightenment, striving for something outside of you, thinking that this way of being will make everything better. And I remember I read somewhere, and I don't have the quote of who said it, that nature is dynamic. It is not always trying to get back to balance, that it is always moving between energy, the energy of life, of growth, and force. And I just wanted to share a bit about what I was thinking, not perfectly succinct, but just kind of musings on what I was thinking about this week with all of this very chaotic energy. And that maybe it can offer you a bit of solace or comfort that when there is this feeling of upheaval, chaos, change, uncertainty, that it is very natural and a part of being alive, and that we were made for it. We were made for the dynamic nature of these intense moments in time. So remember you were made for it, and that there isn't any place that you're trying to get to or state that you should be achieving. It's about moving with the dynamic world. So just a few thoughts around that, and yeah, let's dive in. Let's dive into your energy update for the week of September 15th. Okay. So, yes, welcome to anyone who is new, and welcome back to everyone who has listened before. Just a quick reminder about how these energy impressions are received and how I bring them to you. I go into a nice meditative state with the intention to bring insight, guidance, anything that I can receive and translate intuitively for us to gain more clarity and guidance for the week, but also for the month or whenever you're listening to this. Trust the timing of it. Another piece, and I do like to remind us every week about this, another piece with the energy update is it is a type of intuitive development. It's trusting what resonates with you, trusting when it feels like a message or guidance for you, and trusting when it doesn't. Really knowing what is for you and what isn't. This helps to build the trust muscle within, the energy of trust within, but also your intuitive connection and the language of your intuition, getting to know it even better. And that's a big part of these, to trust what resonates and leave the rest. Don't try to fit every word into your experience. It may fit and it may be exactly what you needed, but there may be parts that are not for you. So trust yourself through it all. So I'll share what came through for the meditation for this week, and then I will share the animal that came through that can inspire us even more, and some journal prompts, some intuitive questions at the end to help you connect even deeper and also integrate some of the insight as well. All right. So the first thing that came through in the meditation was the image of walking a puppy. We're walking the puppy, but the puppy is so excited. It is jumping and pulling on the leash and moving ahead and jumping on us and so excited about the next step. And it was kind of like a golden puppy. Not sure if it was a golden retriever, but the puppy's fur was more of a gold. And their eyes were so big, looking up at you, excited, but also waiting. There was a slight hesitance in between all of the excitement and jumping and moving forward. And this really feels like guidance for some of us to allow this week, the excited, lit up, joyful, puppy like part of ourselves to get us going again, to help to lead and fuel our inner fire. Often, when we feel that energy that I was speaking about at the beginning, the energy of change, more intense, chaotic, upheaval, unsettled, uncertain, that energetic weather that is calling for so much change, it can make us react in a way that feels almost like a bracing for a holding on to what's next, maybe even holding your breath. But it does feel like from this imagery and the feeling and the connection, the way that it's being translated is that this week may highlight an aspect of ourselves that is lit up and excited and joyful and innocent in the way of being naive to what could go wrong, like a fearlessness. But this part of us is waiting for permission, wants to go, maybe makes a few strides excitedly, and then comes back and is looking around for permission to keep going. So that's what it feels like for this week ahead, that a big piece of the energy is asking for us to look at what permission are you waiting for? What do you believe is not for you? The puppy energy feels like, can't you see how much there is to still experience? The golden fur of the puppy, this feels like a symbol of treasure and value, and that we are not giving that value to this vital, bright, joyful, curious, excited energy, this childlike, puppy like energy that we all carry, this enthusiasm for what we feel we want to do and where we want to go. And this is reminding us that we hold the leash, the keys to this part of us. This part of us is asking for permission, but in this image, in this imagery, it's showing that the puppy is looking up at us, waiting for direction, waiting for permission. So how can we give that part of us the permission that we're looking for? Because even though that puppy energy was feeling like, oh, just see, can't you see that there is so much to experience, that it's not done? No fear, just excitement. But there is a weight of fear. There is. And maybe even disappointment or frustration. But it's with the person holding the leash, representing us. And it's like that puppy energy wants to bring us into the light, out of that depth and darkness of fear and disappointment and frustration. That inner child excited puppy energy is bringing us into the light, but also into a remembering of the feeling of that lightness, the feeling of lightness that's already here. He's not dragging us away. He's asking us to be excited now, to connect to that part of us that is excited now. And that puppy energy, the puppy isn't taking a plane or a boat or levitating or floating or ascending. It's taking a few steps on the ground, just a few, and then is so excited. The puppy can't even contain itself. And like I said, the puppy is staying on the ground. So grounded. Getting grounded is a key to this week. It's part of it. So important. But not grounded into a reality where you are rejecting the excitement. You're getting grounded into what is exciting right now for you. What is that joyful, enthusiastic, let's go feeling. And it really showed that this week, in the midst of all of the change and even more changes, unexpected, that could be coming, can you see what's right there, already waiting for you? And no one can do that for you. That's the feeling. No one can give you the permission that you think you need. Even that intense, positive energy of the puppy can't do it for you. In the meditation, it was still looking up at us, waiting, guidance that it is up to us. And this feels like a call to really focus on empowerment, but in a day-to-day way. Checking in this week, seeing and staying aware and paying attention to when you feel outside of your power, when you feel like you are giving your power away, when you feel like something is putting a deep shadow over your power. And that can come from within. That doesn't have to come from outside. That doesn't have to be a person or a place or a project. That can be our inner criticism that we offer to ourselves, the inner critic. That can be judgments. That can be beliefs about ourselves that are not true anymore. That could be so many things that have nothing to do with our true innate strength and power. And it feels like the way it was sharing this insight around empowerment is that this week it's focusing on, as much as we can, where that is with everything we have now. That there's nothing more we need to bring ourselves into that empowered place. And it really feels like the week to ponder that old question, the old saying, if you were not afraid, what would you do? If you were not afraid, what would you say? If you can be as honest as you can with yourself, this is a great question for this week. Part of the energy that we're moving through and that is supporting us right now, it feels like is offering us an opportunity to shed, to just take off the you that is waiting to be told what to do, the you that is waiting for permission. And that this is your week to be in the present, to release yourself from who you think you are, who you think you are not, to come to the present and be the person that you are today without prejudgments or the criticisms or the insecurities, without everything that we have accumulated over the years that shield us from accessing that inner power. Because everything that we are waiting for in the future, because everything we're waiting for in the future only happens because of what we do in the present, now. Because there is this thought or way of connecting to and trusting what we're feeling called to give ourselves permission for and do next and follow, that is us remembering our future. And that is what is guiding us. No one knows for certain, but if that kind of resonates with you in offering yourself more trust in the moment, in the present, then use that idea. It does really feel like we are honoring our future selves this week. Some of us are, by really acting on the excitement and the enthusiasm, not looking 100 steps ahead, but just moving forward in a grounded, present, unencumbered way. This week, some of us could have this realization, it feels like, of, wait, I could have just done this all along? Like, I could have already been doing this? What was I waiting for? And then the next thing that came through was a deep pulsating energy in the palms of the hands and in the heart space. And last week, there was guidance that we were remembering and connecting to the strength of our hearts. And this week, this feeling and imagery shows that our heart energy could be expanding from us connecting to that strength, remembering, reclaiming it, and that our heart energy is expanding and flowing and wanting to be expressed. We're feeling it flowing out of our hands, wanting to, almost that puppy energy. And it does feel and looked like a golden light in the meditation. So is that part of our heart energy, that excitement, that enthusiasm, that what's next? Let's go. It feels like our hearts know it already and that we may have access to that even more clearly this week. And maybe this is the permission we needed. For some of us, the permission is for our hearts. We want our hearts to tell us what to do. But maybe it's more about trusting our hearts to show us, to remind us, to be so connected to the voice of our hearts that we can't help but want to listen and then share it. And it might be small, like a small permission or a big permission to share. And if this is resonating with you, you know already what I'm speaking to. You know where this is fitting into your life, what I'm referring to. So trust that. Don't doubt it. Your heart knows. We're making extra space for our hearts and the expression of our hearts this week. And if you haven't had time with your heart, then the space you create, it could be first filled with an energy that doesn't feel enthusiastic and joyful and excited, that golden rush of energy. It could feel more like grief or sadness or anger or disappointment. That could be there first when you make the space for your heart. But don't be discouraged if that's how you feel. All of our emotions are energy in motion. And if that's what you experience, a heavier, more weighted energy, not the light and enthusiastic energy that we are maybe hoping for, that's fantastic because that means that your deeper, heavier emotions had no space to move. They were static or even stagnant, nowhere to be in motion. So they held on to our heart energy as a space to be safe and secure. But then our hearts have less space to give and express, less space to receive. So if that's what you notice with your heart this week, allow yourself to feel. Open up that space for what is there, even a little bit. Connecting this week to what does your heart need today? And trusting what comes, not overcomplicating it. How can you give that to yourself, to your heart? This could be the only question that you ask yourself this week, maybe the most important. So this is a dynamic week. We end the week on the Sunday with a solar eclipse, a new moon, but in an eclipse. And it signifies the ending of this eclipse season, this astrological weather. That can be why the energy has been feeling so intense, but also the breakthroughs and realizations and understandings that come through with it, but also the change. And this week could be a big change, but the change might be from within. It might be to do with your heart, with your expression, with the permission you give yourself, not waiting any longer. That could be the change. But it is a deep, dynamic week. But before I get into the intuitive questions, there was an animal that came through, and it was so funny because I saw the animal so clearly, and it was a bird, but it was a really big bird. And I kept kind of asking for clarification. What bird is this? Because even though I work with animal energy and I love animals so much, and they are just such a deep part of my intuitive world and practice, I don't know every single animal. And sometimes I see an animal in my meditations, but I don't know what animal it is. And so at first I was like, is that a turkey? And then I looked up a turkey and I was like, no, that wasn't a turkey. And then I thought, oh, was it a vulture? Looked up a picture of a vulture. No, not a vulture. Was it a hawk? Looked up a picture of a hawk. No, not a hawk. And then I kind of connected to my intuition again. And I was like, what bird was that? And I heard ostrich. And then I looked up ostrich and it was an ostrich, which I love. And let's get inspired by this ostrich energy this week. And when I share about the ostrich, getting a little self-conscious about how to pronounce it. But you know what? I'll just say it a few different ways, I suppose. I'll just say it the way it sounds in my mind's eye. So when I share about the ostrich, just allow yourself to connect to where it brings you in your life, how it pertains to you. So the energy that I share, the symbolism, connect it to what it is highlighting in your life for this week, or maybe for the month. So the energy of the ostrich represents getting grounded, heart healing, resisting love, letting go, facing your fears, boundaries, protection, strength, truth, justice, and intuition. Beautifully aligned for the energy this week. And I wanted to share another thing about the ostrich that I was thinking about when it came through afterwards. And I wanted to share another thing about the ostrich that I was thinking about when it came through. Looking at an ostrich, you might think that they are like superior, just prey animals, that they are running away from everything that could hurt them. And that's their defense, to put their head in the sand and run away. But the ostrich actually is super strong when threatened. It can kill animals much larger than itself with a single kick. They have killed lions before. Sometimes when they're running away from a lion, they'll decide to actually just fight it and kill it instead. That has happened. It's not rare. So it does feel like the ostrich, with all of the different energies that it represents, it's also reminding us to remember the strengths that we were reminded of last week, but to put the strength into action. And maybe because it is kind of a hidden strength of the ostrich, not one you think of, this could be guiding us to connect to that inner strength of ours that is maybe hidden or even a secret, and that we feel like we need permission to share or use. Not physically kicking in defense, but to be inspired by the symbolic strength, that hidden strength that is available, that the ostrich reminds us of. And then there is a bit from Animal Speak, the Ted Andrews book, so a bit more about the ostrich. The ostrich is the largest bird, but unlike most, it cannot fly. This is very symbolic. Remember that flight has to do with opening to new wisdom. Birds are symbols of connecting with the more ethereal realms of life and with higher knowledge. A bird that cannot fly can still connect us with these same energies. It also helps us in using them within the physical life. The ostrich is a bird that can help you to take new knowledge out of that ethereal, mental realm and apply it practically. The ostrich can help us link to those realms and prevent us from getting lost in them. If an ostrich shows up, ask yourself some questions. Are you not staying grounded? Are you afraid to use your knowledge and fly to new heights and realms? Are you using your knowledge to move forward? Are you not using your knowledge? Are you becoming flighty, or are others around you becoming so? The ostrich is a bird that can help us in assimilating new knowledge and in staying grounded as we open to it as well. And some great insight for this week. And if that does resonate with you, some of that symbolism and the energy, you may want to meditate with that energy. And you could use your imagination as a translator for your intuition. So picture in your mind's eye an ostrich, and then just see what unfolds. Maybe bring yourself near the ostrich in your mind's eye. Where are you going? What are you doing? How do you feel with it? Does it share anything with you? You can journey on your own in your mind's eye with this animal energy, and you may be surprised at what you receive or what happens. So I totally encourage you, if that does feel right, to try that. Okay, so we did ask quite a few questions throughout the episode for this dynamic, changing, very active week ahead. So trust any of those questions that kind of stood out to you. But let me share 3 intuitive questions to help you connect even deeper to yourself and what you need to remember for this week. And you can answer one or none. Trust what resonates. So the first question you could answer in a journal or in a voice note to yourself: what do you believe is not for you? What do you want permission for? That's the first question. Number 2, if you were not afraid, what would you do? What would you be doing? Trust yourself on this one. Don't kind of shake away an answer if it feels impossible or unbelievable or like a fantasy. Trust the first thing that comes. If you weren't afraid, if you were not afraid, what would you do, or what would you be doing? And then the third question: what does your heart need? And how can you give this to your heart? Well, thank you for listening to this episode of Intuitive Seek. I would love to hear if you resonated with the energy that I'm sharing and feeling for this week ahead. And if you have any thoughts or questions, do not hesitate to send me a message. I love hearing from you, and we connect quite often. So if we haven't already, reach out. And if you're curious about working with me or how I can support you, you can go to the links in the show notes, and there will be a link there that you can click on and explore. And you can also send me a message if that's easier too, and all of the links are there. Hugely appreciated if you subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And if you feel called to give some support, then please share this episode with a friend or even leave a review. They only care about 5 stars. I know it's crazy, but they do. So you could leave a 5-star review. I would be so appreciative. And yes, thank you again. Be kind to yourself, and I will talk to you next week.